Godzilla, King of the Monsters. We're back with more Godzilla, more monsters, more action. How did this one measure up to 2014's Godzilla? Eh. So this film takes place 4 years, I believe, after the original, and it shows our good old company Monarch being investigated furthermore by the government and in talks of being shut down. Again. This film also shows the human knowledge of more monsters, which are referred to as titans in this movie, and it also presents the debate of what do we do about these monsters? What do we do with them? Is it our right to kill them off? Should we let them be? Or are any of these on our side? One of the conflicts that is actually presented in this movie, it addresses a lot from the last movie, is, you know, is Godzilla really on our side, or did we just get lucky? And that is carried on throughout the film, which I really gotta say, I appreciate them sticking to that story point. So this movie has a lot more action than the first one, but almost to a fault. There are times where it gets overwhelming. There are times where there's just so much destruction that you are almost numb to it. And I say almost because it was entertaining, but it just a hair short of being too much to where you don't care. Now, a lot of people complained in the last one that Godzilla was nowhere to be found, and your prayers are answered in this one. Not quite, actually. Godzilla still doesn't get that much screen time in this one, however, definitely a lot more than in the previous film. I was one of the few that actually didn't mind the absence of Godzilla the way it was done in the last movie. Now, in this movie, the way it is done, I do mind it, but again, it's not just because I want to see Godzilla fighting. For me, it's all about storytelling. Kyle Chandler in this was okay. There's a lot of potential behind his character. He is the funniest character. He has some good one-liners, but he comes off as just being mad, just angry, frustrated throughout this whole thing. I guess that they were trying to write him to be, the tough guy, but it just came off as angry. Like, I'm angry to be here, I'm angry to work with you guys, I'm angry about everything. So that's kind of a shame, because with some of the writing, it is really smart. I do like some of his one-liners, but he was just too angry to follow as I guess as our main protagonist. Millie Bobby Brown in this is actually really good. I really liked her as the daughter Madison. She does a really good job of playing that bridge. She's being the glue that's connecting her mother and her father. She's trying to be the one to level with both of them. She's not picking any sides. And she was just good at transmitting emotion. If I can sympathize with any character in this movie, it's her. So I really liked her in it, and this was a good role for her. That's about all I can say as far as positives. Man, I hate to do this. Let's go on to the negatives. So this film actually has a human villain, and it just feels out of place. It just feels wrong for some reason. The storytelling, again, for me, that's a huge deal when it comes to any movie. And in this movie, this is the first time that I can say this about a movie. It feels like it knows the story that it wants to tell you, but it's being hindered. And the best way I can describe it is, imagine you had to run from point A to point B in a pool of molasses. That's how this movie feels. It feels like it knows its goal, it knows its destination, and it's running towards it. But it's going through some of the thickest barriers to get through there. It feels very hindered, and that's the best way I can explain it, because as far as the events, they're very fast, but it feels like no one is making progress. Just everything feels out of place with the writing. They do carry some things from the first film with radiation, again with Godzilla. You know, is he truly, who is Godzilla fighting for? But there's just so many things that I wish they had kept from the first movie that they don't in this. And one of the things that I wish they hadn't done is putting a human villain in this. They explore the lore of Godzilla a little bit more. They actually give you a little bit of backstory on Godzilla. They give you a backstory on Ghidorah, and they give you just more backstory on some of these creatures, and it's done really well. That makes you understand what these creatures are and what their purpose is, and I wish it had just done a little bit more like that throughout the whole movie. Not only with the legends of these creatures, but again, as far as the history of our characters and the history of these events, it was done really poorly, unfortunately. Again, there's so many things that they presented in the last film which made sense that they just did not do in this. And the only thing I talked about the radiation being carried over, and that's barely mentioned in this film. I do like that they kept that, but again, they didn't expand on a lot that they presented in the last movie. Again, the action is there. The action is really well done. For the most part, everything's clear. The fight scenes are very, very creative in this one compared to the last one. But it's just, it feels like it's unwarranted. Unfortunately, with the storytelling, it just feels like they're there just because they're there. It just feels like they're there because people want to see these monsters fight. There's almost no purpose to these fights, and that's a real shame, because in the first one, it did feel like they were warranted, and I wish they had done that with this one. So the special effects in this one can be a little bit overwhelming. In the first one, they limited that. So when you see Godzilla's spines light up before he breathes fire, in the first one it was really cool. This one, it happens all the time, and Godzilla's not the only monster that can do that. So you see a light show coming from these creatures' throats, and at the same time there's dark clouds, and there's smoke, and there's debris, and there's a lot of lightning in this movie. It just got to be too much. Visually, it's overwhelming. There's too many lights. You know, they could have toned that down a little bit. The destruction, again, it gets to be too much. There's so much that I'll be honest, if I was in one of these cities, I'd just lay down and die. Because in the first one, at least, it made you feel like there was a sense of hope to escape. In this one, there isn't, and you just don't connect with the purpose of these monsters fighting. So ultimately, you don't care. This movie has way too many monsters in it. I understand that with Godzilla there is a lot of monsters, and a lot of people wanted to see more than just the two that they showed in the last movie. However, I got this feeling throughout this whole movie while I was watching it that this should have been a two-part movie. And especially the way that this movie ended, yes, it should have been two parts. I just think it's too many monsters on screen at once for what the outcome was, unfortunately. It's overcrowded, it's overwhelming, and I don't understand anybody's intentions in this movie. So Godzilla, King of the Monsters gets a 6 out of 10. Yeah, that's 2 movies in a row now that have been meh. However, I'm a lot more disappointed in this one than I was with Aladdin, and I'm really hoping that the next movie that I watch is a lot higher of a score, because the last 2 movies, I am really actually sad that they got as low of ratings as they did. So that being said, this is a better made movie than Aladdin. However, it's a lot less enjoyable than Aladdin. Go watch Aladdin if you had to choose between the two. So the way I do my film ratings, keep in mind it's not just solely on entertainment, but it's not solely based on production. It's a little bit of both. I'm not the biggest film production nerd, unfortunately, so I don't know all the rules of filmmaking. I just go by what I know how to do. You know, I do some film stuff here and there whenever I can. I mean, yes, it's good to be entertained, but that's not what a movie should just be. It is an art form, it really is, and good art should, deserves recognition. So I know I've been saying this a lot, but I do mean it. Thank you. I'm just like you guys. I'm human. I get discouraged. I get unmotivated. And there's so many things that I could just rant about that don't pertain to this, don't pertain to movies, don't pertain to this channel. So I'm not going to go into that, but it really means a lot. So again, thank you. You guys keep me motivated, and I hope all of you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are enjoying these reviews. I hope you guys are looking forward to more of them. There's many more to come. There's many more movies to watch. I'll catch you guys in the next one. This has been DJ Myst. Peace.